be sharing a couple of updates later, like a post-event official report, our YouTube channel, and all the recordings there, and any other upcoming opportunities. So what we will do now is, since Dr. Ananya is here, we can start with our next session, which is titled Psychologically Hacked. And before that, I would like to introduce Dr. Ananya Chaudhary. Dr. Ananya Chaudhary is a child and adolescent mental health psychiatrist, and she has done extensive work in this area, and we are more than happy to have her here join us today. And we're so glad you joined in early, so we can start the session early, ma'am. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am. And as requested, I have the polls ready whenever you'd like.
Okay, thank you so much. So I hope you all can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure. So I am, as she's already introduced, I am a psychiatrist by profession and have been practicing the field for more than a decade. So today we're going to talk about the topic that we have is psychologically hacked. So we have half an hour. So I'd like to be interactive, and I'm open to any questions that you may have related to the topic. So the point is, we know that with the advent of the internet and the computers, we have made a lot of progress in all fields. The basic positive point of the internet being that it is democratic and it's available. So because of the massive amount of information that we have made a lot of progress either in the field of education, in the field of medicine, in the field of business, shopping, all of those things. But the point that we always have to remember is that whenever we are using any technology, it also depends on us how we are using it, whether we are able to use it in the right way or not. And the second point is that how is it designed? Basically, how the technology is designed. So whatever we do online and how much time we spend online has an impact on our life in the real world and vice versa. So the first question that I would like to ask all of you is, if you could have the first question there.
The question is up. Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, do you think you spend more time online? Too much time online? Yes or no? Do we have a few answers? No.
Would you like me to end the poll now?
Yeah.
We have 26, 27, almost 30 responses. Almost 30.
Okay. How do I get a... Okay, yeah. So that's good. So we have at least 97% saying that that you're spending too much time online. Now, I would say, like most of us, we are online all the time. So the point is, why this question is important. The question is important is that why is important is because we need to know that the time we are spending online, is it causing harm to us or not? So let's talk about internet addiction per se, because this is a relevant topic. So how do you know whether you have a problem in relation to addiction, whether it's a broad term addiction to internet, or whether you may be addicted to certain other things, like maybe porn addiction, or it may be gambling online, or to social media, or to like shopping and all of that. So I would like to ask a question, if anybody could answer, that is, how do you know whether you have an addiction to internet or not? Anybody who wants to answer?
I think if we can spend happily without using our phone or without coming online, then I think we can understand that we are not addicted to like internet or all.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay. Imagine if you are not using internet or your phone for just like if half an hour or 1 hour, you feel like you want to use it more. you'll feel weird.
Hmm.
You'll feel that you want to use it. If you are not using it, you'll feel like you are going to die, or like, it's like just like addiction to liquor or anything like that. Same way,
Mhm.
we will feel that if you are not going, if you don't have that, something will happen.
Okay, that's good. Good. Anyone else?
Ma'am, I believe that if one is addicted, then he or she is put in a situation where even if he or she wants to shut down that very platform, either he or she is not able to do it, or if he or she is able to do it, that would cause a pretty sense of anxiety or even depression to some sense.
Okay, so I'll put some into certain points which will help you to identify. The first one is like there is a lot of preoccupation with that, whether it's a generalized internet that we're talking about or we're talking about only a specific area. So the point is, if you feel that you are preoccupied about using it, suppose the internet, that is point number one. Point number two is you're using that medium or maybe the internet or some other thing to increase or improve your mood or to change your mood, right? The third thing is that you are continuing to take more and more time into and becoming more involved into that medium, right? Suppose you were spending a few hours, now you're spending much more time, right? Then the fourth point comes, which a few of you have mentioned, that in case you're unable to use that medium or that or the internet, then what happens, you feel a sense of withdrawal. Now what withdrawal means in this case is that feeling little irritable, feeling anxious, feeling restless or angry, or you feel that your mood is changing, right? Fifthly, even though you know that you're getting bothered by the use of the internet or that particular thing, you go back to it continuously. And lastly, even if you stop using it, say you give yourself a break from internet or whatever for a day or two, yet you go back to it all over again. So if all of these points check up, then there is a significant issue that you're facing, right? Any other questions related to this?
Now,
Please
is
feel free to
there
unmute.
any relation of like the FOMO habit, like the fear of missing out with this addiction and all?
Yeah. So the fear of missing out is also a contributor to this. When you're talking about, when you're talking about FOMO, it is more related to social media, right? Because it's constantly changing or something like that. You may miss out on something, what is happening, what not is happening. So that may also be a contributor. Now, when we talk about addiction, one thing we have to realize in terms of internet or a particular medium that we're talking about, there are certain contributing factors in the internet itself, right? So the first thing about the internet is that the 3 A's that we talk about, that it's available, it's accessible, and it is anonymous. So that gives you a lot of freedom so that you can continuously, and it's accessible, right? And it's available, so you're going to end up spending more time on it. The second thing about the internet is that it's very consuming. Like if you get on it, there'll be constantly something or the other, so it consumes you totally. Thirdly, what happens is that with a click of a button, you get a lot of choices. So you don't have to move on somewhere else. So you're constantly entertained. Fourth thing is that what happens is that it engages you totally in a sense that you don't have to wait for anything. There is no waiting time for it. So what happens is, for any other thing you'll need some time, you need some effort, but here what happens is that whenever you want a particular kind of thing, it is available to you very fast. So like you get satisfied very easily, and you get entertained very easily. So these are basically some of the properties of the internet itself, which makes you which makes you get addicted to it easily, because once you get into it, you get all consumed into it. Another factor here is that when you are constantly online or something, there is a sense that you lose the sense of time. In any other thing, whether wherever you are, you have a sense of time, but when you are engaged in something continuously, you have that sense of like loss of time. You don't even realize that you have passed hours online. And so that also, you may feel that I've spent 10 minutes on it, but when you look at the watch, already half an hour, 1 hour or 2 hours have passed away. So there are qualities in the internet itself. Plus, what happens when you talk about when you're surfing the net or something like that, they have designed it in such a way that suppose you look for a content of particular kind, so you get constantly the same series of things that you want to view. So basically you get sucked into it very easily. So these are certain qualities in the internet itself which keeps you hooked. But the other thing which we also need to know is that there may be certain particular things within ourselves which are making us more hooked to it. The one thing is that, like I mentioned, when we talk about addiction in relation to internet, we use it to improve our mood. Now, if we are in a low mood, like, if you are depressed or you're anxious or you're worried in real life, you may look at the internet or social media as a way of escape, right? So you'll use it as a way of escape, so you're going to get into it more and more. If you're very impulsive, if you can't wait for things, or if you want to be entertained continuously, then these things may happen. Suppose you're having problems in your real life, you don't have friends in your real life, you may try to compensate by looking for it online, which will get you hooked more and more. Okay, there's a question here. How does internet addiction affects one's mental health? Okay, so I'll tell you very simply. So what happens is when you get addicted to internet, you're spending more and more time online, right? So what happens is you have only 24 hours in a day, right? So when you're taking time off, you're giving so much time to the internet, you're going to get away from other things. So it has been proven that the more time you spend online, right, and over the phone or using the internet, what happens is affects your cognitive function. Mainly your attention span will be less, you will get distracted very easily, it may affect your memory also, and what may happen, it may also affect your decision making capacity. Secondly, what happens is that in terms of the mood, it affects your mood significantly, and what happens is if you're away from the internet, you're going to feel irritable, you're going to feel restless, it's going to affect your mood, and constant exposure to it may happen. When it happens, it may lead to anxiety, it may lead to depression. Also, as you keep spending more and more time online, and there's the change in the light, the flickering of the light, so it will affect your sleep-wake cycle, your sleep may be disturbed, you may have a sense of dysphoria. In real life, you're going to get detached from people in the real world, you lose contact with the reality, you may end up having physical conditions like obesity, other health issues and all of that. So obviously it is going to affect your mental health. And the most important thing is when we talk about children, children and adolescents, what happens is if you're exposed to the internet very early, it has been proven that if you're spending too much time online or on screen, what happens is what they've said for children is if you're spending more than 2 hours online, what happens is it may affect actually your brain development and your social learning to a significant extent. So I would say all of this is going to affect your mental health significantly. Okay, there's another question that we have, which is that how to get children out of internet addiction or mobile addiction. This is a tricky question. Firstly, I would say when it comes to infants and very young children, you cannot nowadays, if we could delay the use of the internet a little later. Then I know they're very early, they start using the mobile, I would say more than the computers, they end up using the mobile. My point would be, it would be better if we expose them to the mobile a little later. Even if they are exposed to the mobile, we have to regulate the time they spend over the mobile. And more importantly, this has been scientifically found, it's not just about the time you spent online. In case of children, it's also the content that you're consuming. So it's important that the content they're exposed to is right. So it's not only that you regulate the time that they spend. The second thing is also that the content they are consuming, if it is something which improves their improves their learning, certain skill sets they develop watching out of it, it's good. The third thing which I would say is that in case we're talking about internet addiction, now the point when we come to children is that you cannot tell them you stop using the phone, you cannot tell them you stop using the internet. What is important is what alternative we can provide to them. The point is, can we provide our children other interactive things which we can engage them in, other skill building effort, playing, learning skill without using the internet. If we can do, we can engage them in other activities. So what is basically the point is that give them minimum exposure, even if they're using, regulate the time, even if they're using, the content has to be right. And fourthly, what alternatives we can provide them, whether it's sports, whether it's engaging with their friends, whether it's other activities, or certain other skill sets, so that they can be engaged in other things. We just can't tell them that don't use it. We have to provide them with alternatives, right? So after we have talked about any questions about internet addiction before we move on to the next few other things that we need to talk about?
Ma'am, during this pandemic, we are all habituated with online classes, online webinar and all. So like researchers like us, I mean, I am personally working on neuroscience. So
Okay.
researchers like us always engage with some, maybe some conferences or some events, or writing the papers and all. So like I personally don't addicted to social media, using social media and all. I can spend 2 or 3 days without social media, but I cannot stay without engaging myself into this type of events and all, or writing research paper, reading research paper, or consuming knowledge from the internet. So how do I explain myself? Am I addicted to internet or not? So I don't understand that thing.
Okay. See, I'll put it this way. Like you have stated your case, in case you're using since the pandemic, most of your work must be online, whether you're looking for information related to what you're researching, or whether you are attending webinars or all of those. So this is mainly related to work. In that context, I would say that this would not exactly be an addiction, in the sense that you're using the medium for your work purpose, right? And it's not something that if you don't do it, if you don't have a webinar one day, or you don't have work one day, you cannot survive, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right. So if you're using it for your work and you're using it for a specific purpose, and if you don't have work, you can switch it off, that is not exactly an addiction. Because I think because your work is mostly online, that has been for most people for the last 1.5 years, I won't say it's addiction. Now, only thing which we have to be careful about is that when even if you're working, say round the clock, working or studying or whatever it may be, the important thing is that because you have 24 hours in a day, what happens is that I can start at 7 o'clock, I can start at 8 a.m. in the morning, or I can start at 12 o'clock. What is important for professionals who are working from home, or students who are studying at home, is that even though you're not going out, what is important is you maintain your schedule, so that you have time for your work or your studies. You take time for a little bit of exercise, you take time for socialization, talking to your friends or whatever, and some activity for leisure. So what you do is that the 8 hours work is not stretched to 20 hours. So that hampers your work-life balance. So what I would suggest for all of you who are using, who are online for your work purposes, maintain your schedule even if you're working from home. And your ideal schedule should include time for work, some exercise, some leisure activity, and some socialization. So if you can have that in your schedule, that's good.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Just one question I had.
Yeah,
Actually,
sure.
only 2 questions. Ma'am, first, I've observed in myself that every time exams come near, even in the middle of the semester, I'm just least interested in engaging in any online stuff. But when exams are near, I tend to engage in online activities or digital activities like playing games or watching series more than not. if earlier I did not even have the interest, now it's almost like I need it. So is this a coping mechanism, or is that an addiction?
Okay. In your case, what I would say is that when exam approaches, all of us are stressed to some extent. In your case, like you've mentioned that during regular, between the semesters, you don't have a problem like that. Now, when the exam nears, what happens is that one, the stress level rises, and secondly, what happens is that you need to study. So what happens is you don't want to leave the study table. What you end up doing is either searching, going through social media, playing games, or doing like something like that. So what you're doing is you're trying to reduce your stress and your boredom by doing all of that. What I would suggest in your case is, yeah, you may be using it as a coping mechanism. What I would suggest is before the exam, if you can't pay attention for a long span of time, you reduce your study time to, what should I say, into small chunks of say 45 minutes, take a break in between. Don't use social media as a break. Internet as a break. You can go out, roam around, talk to somebody at home, call your friends and something like that, come back to your study. So instead of using, games or something else to cope with your stress or boredom, use something else, because you may end up spending much more time and then getting frustrated that I didn't get anything done.
I see, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, another question. Just
Sure.
I faced during the beginning of the pandemic, most likely March or April 2020. It was like that. As usual, exams were supposed to be held, but they got postponed indefinitely. So just to prevent myself from getting distracted, I deleted all the games and social media. But it happened as such that at one point of time I felt so lonely, and there's nothing to do, that I happened to call up my friend in the middle of the night at almost 12:30 and asked him that, are you still playing the game? Then he said yes. Then it was like almost as if a drunkard craving for alcohol, that I had to install the game and then play it. At that point of time, was this just an escape from the social realities of that time, or that also a part of the addiction thing?
See, it's difficult to say whether you're addicted from that one instance, but what I can tell you with all honesty is that you cannot think about not using internet at all. See, when it comes to any other addiction, say if it is a substance related addiction and alcohol or something like that, we don't say that you reduce it. We don't talk about harm reduction. We talk about abstinence, like complete stoppage. When you talk about the internet, we cannot go the road of complete abstinence. Rather, it has to be a process in which you use the internet in a regulated way. So in your case, I mean a lot of people may do that I'm off social media and all of that, and after a few weeks or months they'll come back on it. So if you think that it is a problem, the issue has to be about how much time you spend and some regulated time and certain apps you don't use, rather than complete stoppage of use.
I see.
And the other thing in your case, maybe because we were going through the pandemic and everyone was feeling very isolated, so the use of social media or games or things might have increased. So now is the time that we balance it out a little bit. That is what I would suggest. Okay. If there are no questions related to internet addiction, we can move on to other issues.
Can I ask one?
Yeah, sure.
So, ma'am, I want you to throw some light on the generation gap. Like we have talked about what addiction is and what addiction is not. So because of the generation gap, let's say between a teenager and his parents who are probably in 40s, the meaning of a mobile phone is totally different, and the amount of life the both of them spend on the mobile will be different. So obviously there can be a difference between defining addiction for both of them, and how do you think there can be a communication between the two so that they understand each other's perspective?
Okay. Yeah, definitely the use, the purpose and the meaning of the phone, the mobile phone, the computer and internet is going to be different as per the generations, right? So practically nowadays you cannot exist without the phone, the internet and so on and so forth. But obviously, because for the different generation, the meaning is different. So there is going to be a clash between the two generations. Now, firstly is that the communication between the two generations, what is important is for the younger generation to understand is not everything that your parents tell you is wrong. And for the parents to understand is that the kids also know something, they are not without brains. So for the communication purpose, what I feel is that certain regulations have to be there. Like suppose their issue, maybe you're spending all the time in your room in front of the computer or with your phone, right? Even while we are eating, you're using the phone constantly. So what I would say is that there should be some communication between the two about what is the regulation that you set for yourself. The regulation should not be just from the parental side, but also from your side regarding it. Like suppose if you're talking about the meal times, nobody should be using the gadgets during that time. You can communicate freely. Besides work, your what should I say, the interaction with friends and all may also be online, so you may spend some time online. So what I would suggest is that lay out these have this open communication about the use of the phone or internet, and have a regulation for yourself, right, in which you end up some time with your family, you spend some time with your family. Don't use the gadgets while you're eating or something like that. Have the meals with your family. The rest of the time you can use it for studying, talking to your friends, go out a little bit, exercise a little bit. I think they shouldn't have a problem. The major thing which I feel parents have with their children is that you're constantly in your room, you're constantly over the phone, you don't talk to us, and you don't do any physical activity. So if you can set up a you know, kind of a what should I say, a schedule for yourself which actually enables you to have some interaction with them, have the meal times without the gadget, go out of the house, I mean go for some kind of exercise occasionally, and then spend your time online, whether you're studying or with your friends, I think they should be okay with it. If I understand your question correctly.
Yes, thank you.
There is another question: how are online classes affecting us, as we are not given any specific training for optimal utilization of internet for studies, rather that was an abrupt shift. Okay, yeah, the online classes are definitely affecting all the youngsters, because firstly what is happening is the teachers who are taking your online class must be much less equipped than you all are, number one. So I don't think they could give you any specific training, because I think they are more ill-equipped than you all are, number one. Number two is because of the online classes, what is happening is, I would say, most of the youngsters, they go to sleep around 3 or 4 o'clock. So when you wake up during the online classes, you're not really awake, so you don't actually attend the classes. You get up at around 12 or something like that, and even if you attend the online classes, somehow they don't seem interestingly enough. So I would say definitely we were ill-equipped to handle such a situation. So I would say there have been a lot of disturbance in your routine because of the online classes. So yeah, of course, we have been, I would say the online classes have not been scheduled well, and I don't think we attend them that well. So there has been no planning while we shifted to online classes. That's true. And how can we optimally utilize social media apps when the only interaction during lockdown in the is the chat system of the social media app? Could you elaborate on measures that we can take? Okay. So the point here, the question that somebody has raised, I think I'll read it aloud. How can we optimally utilize social media apps when the only interaction during lockdown is the chat system of the social media app? Could you elaborate on measures that we can take to stop ourselves at a threshold? Okay. So the one thing which is very important is that the balance that we are talking about. So between the real world and the virtual world. Now, at the time of the lockdown, we can say that we existed only in the virtual world. Now, what is important is to get the balance back. What we need to do is, you need to have time in your schedule for regular sleep and wake up time, number one. when you are studying, I mean, online or whatever, utilize that time, but have some time for interaction with the people around you, whether it's your parents, whether it's, people around you. Have some time to have some real life interaction. Do certain things that you are interested in. Spend time with your friends online chatting, that's fine. But what is more important is that don't spend your time on whether a chat or an app for more than say 45 minutes or so. Once keep an arbitrary limit, because when we talk about internet addiction also, we don't have a time frame that if you cross this much time, then it's addiction, in the scientific sense. So what is important, if you're spending 30 minutes to 45 minutes on something, stop at that point, do something else. Basically, you need to schedule your life in such a way that you have real life activities and you have a virtual life also, so that there can be a balance and your entire time is not on the virtual world. I mean, studying, entertainment, emotional, managing your emotional issues, all of this should not happen only in the virtual world. There must be real life things also which you're doing along with the virtual world. Then only you can maintain a balance. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so we move on to from addiction. We move on to some other issues which affect us because of the use of the internet. One of it is one of the many things, maybe when you talk about cyberbullying, when we talk about certain other things like cyber stalking, we talk about revenge porn, or we talk about certain other issues which may take place. Now, one thing which I want to ask, I think we have time for the next question. Could we have the question, please?
Is it visible on the screen? Just give me a minute.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so what I would like to, till the question flashes, what I would like to know from people who are attending, have you been, what should I say, a victim of cyberbullying ever?
Is it visible now?
Yeah, it's visible. Have you faced bullying online? Yes or no? Okay, so when we're talking about online bullying, now there are certain things that I want to talk about, is that when we're talking about online bullying, there are certain elements involved in it. There is a primary person, the initial person. Okay, so we have an answer. Have you faced bullying online? 36% says yes and 64% is no. Okay. So what I want to say is, then when we're talking about cyberbullying, there's certain elements which we need to know about. So there is an initial person who starts the bullying, right, online. So we'll put him as the primary person. There's going to be a victim who is the subject who faces the bullying. There are some observers, and lastly there is a secondary person who takes up the bullying. Now you have to understand, the primary person initially starts the bullying, right? The victim faces the bullying. There will be some bystanders who will be there, right, who also, by way of not protesting, contribute to the bullying in some way. And then there will be a secondary person who will take it up and continue the bullying. Now, what is important here to understand is this: in the entire thing, sometimes knowingly, unknowingly, we may be a contributor to the bullying. So what is important when we talk about the primary person who starts the bullying, we have to understand that because of the anonymity, the person takes advantage of the anonymity, and then the person may feel that I don't have to face any consequences of whatever I write online. Because if you have to say something on somebody's face, you may have to think about the repercussions I have to face. But when you're posting something online, you don't worry about the repercussions. So the anonymity and the lack of repercussion makes the person bold enough to make certain comments. And somehow, because the person is not in front of you, you somehow feel that I have not done it, I have not done anything bad. So you can basically take yourself away from any kind of blame, and you actually feel blameless. So somehow or the other, you dehumanize the person in front of you and you keep yourself scot-free. So what is important here to understand is, if I'm going through a bad mood, it does not justify me bullying somebody else or writing mean things about somebody else just to feel good. Number one. Number two is that when you don't like somebody, or you don't like somebody's opinion or something like that, you should answer that question instead of making personal attacks on that person or taking it out purposely on somebody else. Now, the people who don't respond and remain silent. Now, it's very important that by remaining silent, you are encouraging the bully. So it's very important to call out the bully and, if necessary, report it. Now, the secondary person who takes up the bullying, after that, also has the responsibility of realizing that I should not blindly follow anybody in terms of writing something or bullying somebody. And fourthly, when we talk about the victim, it's very important to realize that the victim faces a lot of distress, emotional turmoil, anxiety, and maybe also depression in certain way because of this bullying, because it has a lot of impact on you. What is important to realize in case of a victim is that it's important to call out the bully, it's important to report, and it is important also to realize that because you feel that everybody is commenting negatively about me or constantly writing things about me, that does not make it true. And secondary, this is just the virtual world, you also exist in the real world. So it is important also to realize that everything that happens in the virtual world, it affects you, but you also have a real world, and if you ask for help, you will get help. So it is very important for all of the elements involved in the actual bullying to realize your role and your responsibility to the entire process. Now, anybody, yeah, there is something, any questions regarding bullying? Quickly. Now there is something which is written. The question is, what is right converts to who is right. Okay, now the question is, when you're having an interaction online, it's not a question of who is right or who is wrong. It's a question of you stating an opinion and somebody having the right to disagree or state their own opinion, rather than attacking on you because they don't agree with you. Any question in relation to bullying?
Ma'am, when we are going through the cyberbullying thing, sometimes people say that don't respond to negative comments and all. So what should I do? Should I reply to those negative comments and think about it and report it, or just ignore it for our just mental peace?
See, let's just say that you've written something and somebody writes something which is totally irrelevant, right? There may be few people who make irrelevant comments. If it stops at that, there's nothing much to do. You know, some people, they thrive with that. You know, if you write something, they write 10 more comments. You know, they thrive on that. You know, some people are just waiting to have a confrontation, right? If it's 1 or 2 comments which doesn't agree with you and seem a little rude, if not responding to them is fine and it stops, it's okay. But if it goes on and it becomes like, you know, something really unacceptable, then obviously that should be reported. That's what I feel.
Okay.
And we have, I think, only 2 minutes left. So what I would like to say to all of you is that we cannot exist without the internet. So we have to be more, what should I say, educated in knowing how to use the internet to its optimum level without compromising our mental health. That is important, because unregulated and wrongly used internet will affect your mental health. There is another thing which I want to mention is that on the social media or certain places, they have set some unrealistic goals for you. Like, it may be like, it may be about the body size. It may be about dressing a particular way, looking a particular way, which puts in a pressure on the adolescent and the impressionable mind that I have to be a particular kind, and I have to be, say, cool, or, look a certain way to be, to be in that cool category and to get accepted. This puts in a lot of pressure, and sometimes people have a real life version of themselves and an online version of themselves, and this puts a lot of stress, because you have to balance the two things which are very different from each other. So what is important to realize is that you don't have to be a certain way to be accepted by people. If they are your friends, they'll accept you the way you are. So this is very important to realize, not to have unrealistic expectation, not to follow things which make you go away from your real self. And secondly, it is very important to have a balance between your real life and your virtual life. And when you feel that you're unable to manage your emotion, whether it's your depression, whether it's your anxiety, or you feel you're being bullied online, you need to seek help from your friends, from professionals, or from areas which who can provide you help, right? If there are no other questions, then we can stop at this point, or if there is a question, if we have time, we can take one.
Ma'am, we have 5 more minutes. So
Okay.
if there is anyone who has another question, please feel free to ask.
Yes, no one is asking. I have a personal question there.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, ma'am. So whenever, suppose I am talking about myself, whenever I scroll the LinkedIn page or something, so I can see that various peoples are getting some awards or maybe some achievement are there, and we happy to see those things, and also we came to know about those awards and achievement from LinkedIn profile, right? But whenever you see that you are actually you are trying to do something, but due to some consequences or due to some constraint in your institution or all, you cannot do those things, or for lack of supports are there, so that is why you cannot do that thing. And that anxiety comes that, okay, they are I mean, they may be from the same institution or same age group, but they are doing that thing, but for some constraint I am not doing this thing. So that time what I do, I just stop using LinkedIn for maybe 2 or 3 days and try to recover myself. But I don't understand whether it is a right way to do that, or should I accept whatever I have already and just move on.
See, earlier what used to happen is that you could only see the people near you or your friends who are achieving certain things, right? And that too, that was not very visible, right? You used to hear about it, right? So it used to affect you at some point when you compare yourself with other people.
Yes.
But it was very temporary. Now, because of the online thing, you can see everything, your friends, wherever they are staying, the kind of life they're having. So they, like I said, you project a certain image. Now, the person who's getting the award or something like that, obviously it's a good thing to know somebody is getting an award, but we end up comparing ourselves with that person, right? So the point is, it's not about the internet makes it more visible to us, but the point is about comparison, right? So it's important to realize that your life trajectory, though you're in the same profession, same department, or same college, whatever, university, whatever, your trajectory is not exactly linked to that person, right? So he'll have certain achievements in certain areas while you'll have certain achievements in other areas, right? So the point is, whenever you compare yourself negatively to the other person, you need to take time and realize that it's good that person has achieved. Maybe I have other achievements in store for me, maybe not this, or maybe at a later stage. So that is something which you need to realize. What happens is the social media people always highlight the positive, right? I'm going to show my happy moments. I know, show you where I'm traveling, what, you know, that kind of a thing. So obviously that affects us in a negative way. But what is important to realize is take that time off and realize that person has done well, but for myself, maybe I have a different trajectory. I may have to work and achieve things in a different way. So that is more important to realize.
Yeah, okay. And also, I mean, while I use Facebook and all, maybe I went to somewhere and my friends are there and they take some photos and all. And when I came back, I don't feel to share the photo immediately in Facebook or something. But they used to ask me that, why it has been 2 days and you have not uploaded that photo. So what are you doing exactly? And I thought that, why should I upload this photo? I mean, why should I take the pressure that I have to upload those photos today? Otherwise it will be gone, or the movement will be gone, and I will lost that time space and all. So I don't understand these things actually, that I have to upload this. I mean, I have to take this pressure to actually to be in the race actually. So that's
so the point is you have to decide which race you are in, right? For people who feel that whatever I'm doing has to be on the media, people have to know that I'm happy, right? You know, I'm having a life, I'm enjoying myself, that image has to be there. For them it is important, up to you. But if you feel that you know, it's not so important, then you don't need to be, right? Because it's a moment that you had, you have the photographs, you can go through them whenever you want to you know, feel that moment. So if you don't feel the need, you don't. I mean, to each his own.
Exactly, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other question?
Yogesh, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
We can hear you, Yogesh.
Okay. Ma'am, like, I'm just thinking, like, a technology itself a stress for the people, because, you know, when we are out, if some people, you know, say, like, if you know that someone has been paid so that you know, this will came for a huge thing, it will breaks into a mass, you know. If the person on that next side doesn't know, means he feel like, oh, I doesn't know the point, what he is talking about. So the technology itself giving him a lot of stress. So by meanwhile, like, we are stepping into the next zone, like, seems like metaverse and meta universe, where the everything is you can create your own avatar, you can create it is like being, you know, another person in the reality. It is what the thing, right? So I eventually noticed many people, like, they don't talk with the ATM watchmen, they don't talk with the, you know, rickshaw wala guy. They just go, they just take their mobile, they just go. But when we talk to those persons now, you came to know that the world is lot more better than what you are seeing in the, you know, phones or virtual things, what all it is. So how it gonna you know, how it's gonna
affect?
And you know, at some point people will feel like people will miss themselves. So, you know, they should be obviously in the virtual team. Maybe on end of the you know, meta or metaverse, they'll have their separate virtual malls. They have a separate, you know, clothings to wear, all those stuff. So it is entirely a new arena where we're going to switch it off. So my question is like as like I'm Yogesh, okay? So I will be as like Yogesh, or I'll be just to the next person what you know, to another person what actually need to be projected.
I'll answer it in a slightly different way. What I'll say is that when we are interacting, I mean, when we talk about interaction in the real world, right? You're talking like you talk to a rickshaw wala, or you talk to a ATM wala, or you talk to somebody on the road or something like that. So that interaction, when you're talking about the social aspect of it, it includes a lot of things. There are there is the verbal communication that you have the non-verbal communication in terms of the gestures, the way you you know, the way you pronounce, you know, the tone, all of it has an implication. So when in real life, the interaction pattern involves a lot of cues which we learn because of our interaction since childhood. Okay, this cannot be exactly till now. I don't think so. Till now, we cannot get it in the virtual world. Right? It is very, very straight and on your face. Even if you create an online avatar, whatever you do it, that finer nuances of communication has not come, I would say, right? So what happens if you are constantly into it, you may not and totally absorbed into it, what will happen is you may not learn a lot of social skills, to deal with real life. So though in the virtual world, you may be, it is more rewarding, you can project the way you want to, you may do the things and you get an instant gratification. You don't have to wait. So what happens is, obviously it's more, what should I say? You like it better and better. On the other hand, if you're so much involved in it, you may not have sufficient social skills to deal with in the real life, which is slightly more trickier. Okay. So what I would say is that since we are moving ahead in time, we cannot go back on technology. What we need to do is that the responsible use of technology and finding the solution to it also has to be in a responsible way, so that we can balance out all of this. So the point is not going back. The point is moving forward with better technology and better knowledge of how to use it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the.
Okay, so I think we've come to an end of the thing. Anybody who has any queries can mail it to me on my mail ID. Just send it across. And thank you everyone for for asking the questions and paying attention to me, and also asking me to think a little more.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ananya. Thanks a lot for the session. Thanks for making it so interactive, and I'm really glad our participants and our delegates really enjoyed the session.